Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Hill. And tonight, um, my guest should be arriving soon, I'm hoping. So, there she is. That was fast. All right.
Hi.
Hi. My,
How are you?
my guest tonight is Taryn Kerper. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm sorry. I just saw because at first I thought I had till 8 and then at 8 p.m. my time.
Yeah.
And then I just saw I just saw that you said no 7 and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are, especially in the East Coast, who have done that before, where they get the time backwards, and that's fine. I mean, it all worked out. So,
Absolutely. Thanks for having me though.
thanks for being on at short notice. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking with you. Um, First off, I want to say thank you to the owners of the Maxwell Mansion here in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, um, Monica and Luke, for allowing me to do my show here. This is a very spirited hotel. I don't use the word haunted because they really don't like it, so I use spirited, and they know it is. So um, it's a boutique hotel, and I just want to give them props for allowing me to do this. So, having said that, um, why don't you tell some of my listeners who you are and what you do?
Whew. Okay. So, my name's Taryn Kerper. I am host of Paranormal Brew. Paranormal Brew started 2017, but it started as just mainly through Mixler and spot like radio type internet radio stuff. And then I discovered Facebook Live. And I was originally with other people doing Paranormal Brew. And they kind of, it was a couple, and then they had to do, they had to back off. And then I had my best friend join me, and then they had to back off. Life and stuff like that. But this is Paranormal Brew's my baby, so I couldn't I couldn't stop doing it. I love it. My main goal with Paranormal Brew is, it I all the shows that were coming out, and I minus Ghost Hunters because I have a lot of respect for those guys on, like Jason and Steve. I really love how they investigate, how they handle clients, how they present evidence. Not everything's a demon. They don't have their clients crying and running out of a room, and wanting to sell their house.
Hmm.
But all the shows that were coming out were kind of gearing towards the negative side of things. And as we know, that's few and far between.
Hmm.
And it's, obviously, TV is entertainment, but there are some people that are paranormal enthusiasts, young children, kids that watch these shows and think that's how you're supposed to do it. That's how
Hmm.
you investigate. And it's not, if anything, you could get yourself in trouble, hurt. They don't realize that they have to get permission to go into these places.
Hmm.
You're not supposed to say, throw something at me, you
Hmm.
know. So that was the first part of it. And then I started having guests come on, and then that still is my focus, but also the people that come on my show, I want their voices to be heard, their knowledge to be shared, the things that
Hmm.
how they investigate, how they research, educational wise, and promote the people in the field that are legit and are honest and have the heart
Hmm.
that, you know, the old school, the people before us had.
Hmm.
It wasn't about being famous, and it wasn't about being on TV. It was about helping people and, you know, trying to find proof of whatever it is that you're searching for. It could be
Right.
UFOs, Bigfoots, Men in Black,
Hmm.
ghosts, whatever.
Hmm. Right. So yeah, it's such a refreshing feeling knowing that there's other people like you that view that old school investigations as an important tool. Some of the stuff today is just really kind of blown up and blown out of proportion. To each his own for everybody. But it's just when it comes down to brass tacks, if you're going to investigate, you need some just simple tools, and you know, you go with your gut instinct. And always be respectful. And that's
Always.
a lot of that nowadays is just young kids think that investigating or ghost hunting is just a game, and it's really not.
Mm-mm.
And just like you, that's why I do this show, so that I could get different types of opinions on all different levels, and also educate people on certain things that they may not know about, that I might not know about, which I've learned a couple different times, where um, hearing somebody talk about something where I thought I knew a little bit about, I really didn't. And so it's
Mhm.
also educational and benefit for me doing this show, just like when you do your show.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it has to do with you know, the positive reinforcement. You know what I mean? And it's
Absolutely.
people need to see that, need to hear that.
Yeah, because
So,
there is there's like there is a lot of drama in the field, but like also there's so much positive, and there's a lot of you know people that aren't in the paranormal field. And when I say paranormal, I mean it's everything. It's everybody that researches and whatever it is your thing is. Like I said earlier, Bigfoots or
hmm
this or that. You know, there's people from the outside of it, that look on the inside and think it's, sometimes, or not everybody, but there's people that look at it as a gimmicky type of a thing, but
yeah,
they don't realize all of the good things though that the paranormal field does. I mean, look at all of, which is another thing, a reason I have the show. A lot of our peers do events and they raise money, whether it be for animal shelters or
right,
wounded warriors, vets,
hmm
locations, historic buildings that have significance with our
right,
history. I mean, lot of good that we do. It's not
right,
just running around it in the middle of the night and
hmm
looking for Casper.
right, pretty much. You touched a little bit on, like, on historical sites and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer in historical sites. I'm a firm believer in helping to keep those old buildings, up and still going strong in that sense. Even if they turn into a museum, or even if they're abandoned, I really sincerely hope that there are more people that come out of the woodwork in that sense of wanting to save some of that history, because even in Lake Geneva here, we are steep in history. And this house, or this hotel, was built in 1856, one of the very first buildings that was erected in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Mhm.
And so there's other buildings that were downtown that were old, and you know, but when real estate comes in and kind of just wants to out with the old and in with the new,
Mhm.
it really drives me up a wall. And I've seen that a lot here in Lake Geneva, and it's sad, and it's so frustrating. If I had the money, I would want to save them all. I mean, I love
Mhm.
the whole history, and I see, people say, "Oh, this house is going to be torn down because nobody wants it," but the history of it, there's a lot of people that don't see that. There are quite a few that do see that, but having the resources, like when you talk about events, that helps pay for that.
Yeah.
That helps to build that up. Some of these people don't realize that the money isn't something that these people who are hosting these events are just going to pocket the money and run to the next Starbucks.
Right.
It's going back towards the community. It's going back towards the historical societies, or something that they are passionate about. So
Absolutely. Yeah, like I'm an independent investigator, so that means I do have people that I investigate with, that I trust, that I know, that I've known for years. So when I get asked to help out, so I help out, Fort Mifflin, Selma Mansion, and Penhurst when they have like public events if they need help, and then
mhm,
I will, if an investigation comes my way, I'll reach out to a certain group of people, that will do that with me. But
Mm-hmm.
my point is, like, take Selma Mansion, for example, of all the events that we've done and or that they've done and like I've been a part of. And I did do a couple of events there, just investigating stuff. But when you see the new roof go on, or you see the heat being fixed, or
Right, right,
and you see that what you're doing is making a positive, if like making up like this building come back to life, like you can almost feel the energy in the whole place change, but you feel like you're a part of that history. You're
right,
a part
right,
of the history of that building.
right, right. And that is that speaks volumes, to me, and I'm sure to some people that really enjoy doing that, and sometimes I drive by some of these places and I just, God, my heart longs for them, or longs for these buildings, and it's like, man, I wish I could save that, or I wish I could save this, or but you know,
It's a,
alas, we just do what we got to do.
yeah, and you try. I mean, there was
Right.
a building here, and I'm caught off guard, so I can't remember. So I'm in New Jersey, unfortunately.
Okay.
And New Jersey, people around here, contractors, builders, and stuff, they see green, they see something, they
Yep.
just want to tear it down and build, right?
Hmm.
And there was a house, I think it was early 1700s, and not even 100 feet from the house was a cemetery.
Oh wow.
And there was petitions after petitions after petitions to save this house, and unfortunately, money talks, right? And
Yep.
they wound up knocking the house down, and trying to build like an overpass and this and that. Well, um, I think it's ironic, and I think it also has something to do with what they did. But mid building this overpass and stuff, the side of the whole wall just
Hmm.
fell. You know what I mean? It just, I mean, like a big, huge, long wall that went up 295. It just fell. The dirt, everything just crumbled. You know,
Wow.
and the building of whatever they were going to be building just ceased. And I said, "That's what you get. You're
Right.
messing with stuff,
Right.
but you're messing with stuff you shouldn't be messing with."
Right. Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and who knows? I mean, being so close to a cemetery, and I know that the activity of certain cemeteries, especially when there's a house that old, I'm telling you, man. I mean, it's just there's some connection. There's got to be,
Yeah, and
and
how do you sleep at night knowing that you're
oh, I know.
erasing history like that? Just getting rid of it.
Right, right. That's what I don't get. I mean, I drove by a building in downtown Lake Geneva here, and it was an old funeral home that I grew up walking by on my way to school, and I love the architecture. I love the building. It ceased years ago to be a funeral home, but then other businesses came in, and one was a coffee shop, one was something else. When I walked in there, I could sense there was so much energy in there, and I loved it. I loved the hardwood floors, the whole 9 yards. And I drove by it one day, and they were tearing it down.
Mm,
And I was just, I, I came home, and I was so pissed off. And I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, you're getting mad at an inanimate object, but actually, it was more to that. I was upset the fact that they were tearing down the history, that whole history of what it was. People a week from when they were tearing it down will never know what's there. That people
right.
walk by and they won't ever recognize it for what it was. And so I guess that's what really irritates me more in
Hmm.
that sense. But
Yeah.
that's just me.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I love Gettysburg so much. I mean, you walk around Gettysburg, they've preserved that town so well.
Right.
I mean, their historical societies and their park people and this
Hmm.
and that. I mean, they really, I mean, the place is just, it's almost like a time capsule.
Right. Oh yeah, I would totally agree. That's
Yeah.
on my bucket list. um, I actually have ancestral ties to Civil War,
Hmm.
so it the research that I did on my family, and it was just it was moving in that sense, and
Hmm.
to realize that. I spent most of the time in the north. You know, I was born in Wisconsin and this and that, but a couple of my relatives, I think, were on both sides. You know, so it was really, and I love. There's something about Gettysburg that just it speaks to me, and I'm sure it speaks to a lot of people. The history of that and the way it's being preserved, and the pictures that I've seen, and people that I've talked to that have gone down there and experienced the sheer awesomeness of it, you know,
Yeah.
and how everything is just moving, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, there's people that hate it, and I feel sorry for them, because I mean, that's my Calgon. I mean, I go probably 15 times a year. It literally recharges my battery.
Hmm.
It, it really, it feel like it just cleanses me, and then I can, you know, but the one thing about it is that, you know, I'm also a very patriotic person. And
Right.
I feel like Gettysburg is the heartbeat of our nation.
I would agree. I would
And
totally agree.
yeah, and when you go there, you kind of feel that in the air as well, not just the hollow ground, and not just, I mean, 50,000 casualties, and that includes, it's not deaths, but I mean, it includes deaths. It includes, wounded, captured,
Hmm.
POWs, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But when you think about that, and you go there and you're watching. I mean, Chamberlain, who was with the 20th Maine, and he was the one that, I don't know if you've know a lot about Gettysburg. I'm not trying to, but
Oh yeah.
he did bayonets, and he like charged the Confederates. Like, they think that that was like the turning point, of the Civil War, was that moment. But um the heroism and everything like that. And yes, there were a lot of deaths, but Chamberlain would go back there every year, the anniversary,
Hmm.
of the war. And he said the spirits linger. They love being honored. They
Hmm.
love that people come out there and they honor what happened. They have respect, a healthy respect for what happened there, you know?
Right. Right.
So,
My nephew, his middle name is named after Chamberlain.
oh, really?
My brother-in-law, his great grandfather, I think it was in the Union or something, and so um, somehow with Ancestry.com or whatever, they found that, and when Josh was born, my nephew, they gave him the middle name Chamberlain.
That's awesome. I think,
And yeah.
yeah, I think I tell everybody, if there are such things as past lives, he was probably my husband.
Nice, nice. And my nephew is a Marine.
Thank you for
Oh yeah, yeah.
my goodness. I mean, every morning I put up an American flag. I say, "Good morning, America."
Hmm.
I'm a huge patriot, a huge
Yeah,
patriot. I have so much respect for our military, you
yeah.
know,
Oh, I do too. My daughter is a chief petty officer in the Navy.
love
So
her, love her. I
yeah.
don't have the balls to be in the military. So, I mean, I mean, I have the utmost respect for the people that have been
Yep.
in there and are in there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So let's talk a little bit about some of your paranormal experiences that you've had on some investigations.
Sure.
What's some of that stand out in your mind that you feel that you made a difference or that you didn't know what to do?
So I'll bring up Penhurst first, because
Okay.
Penhurst, for some reason, prior to going to Penhurst, and that's in Spring City, PA, prior to going to Penhurst, once I heard about Penhurst, I wanted to go there so bad. I was
Hmm.
a part of a group at the time, and they went out there a couple of times, and it was a missed opportunity for me to go, but I was like, I have to go, I have to go, I have to go. And I didn't know why. So I go at one time, my first time, and I'll tell you, I'm the worst at setting up any types of protection or anything. I'm so bad at it. Like, I I is that, can you hear that? Never mind. Sorry about that.
Is that you?
Yeah, that was me. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I went there and I'm walking through, and all of a sudden I started to feel, now I'm not somebody that goes to an investigation to find a ghost. I go there to find what could be causing this. What
Mhm.
could be causing that? How could they see this is happening? How could they feel that? Like, what is going on in this building that whatever, you know?
Mhm.
So, anyways, we're walking through, and all of a sudden I felt almost like drunk or drugged. I don't know. It was really, I never experienced anything like it before, and nor have I since. Um, I was kind of felt like giddy, almost punch drunk, if you will.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so the people I was with took me outside of the building, and I was kind of just, I felt a little bit better, went back in, same thing. So then I realized like I maybe should sit this one out. So 6 months later down the road, well, in between that time and then 6 months later down the road, I started to get into ancestry and stuff like that. And I found that I had family in Georgia, and then I was like on this podcast one time, and I was talking about my experience at Penhurst. And the family member that I had just connected with, that I never knew I had, who lived in Georgia,
Mhm.
told me that um, we had a family member that was a resident of Penhurst, which I never knew. We shared the same last name. He was a cousin of mine.
Mhm.
So he was a resident of Penhurst. They took him out of Penhurst in 1978 and then switched him to Hamburg State Hospital.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if that is why I was drawn or had the experiences that I had being there
Mhm.
because of my, family connection there. But it made more sense to me as to why I was affected the way I was. I
Right.
have since gone to Penhurst. I love Penhurst. Penhurst is probably one of my most favorite places to investigate.
Wow.
So, but yeah, so that's one of the things. And then Rolling Hills Asylum in New York. Um, that was a place where everything that you think you could like sense wise experience, I did. Again, I'm not a psychic. I'm not a medium. I don't, I don't have those. I'm clairaudient sometimes, but not all the time.
Mhm.
So for me to see something, it's very rare. Um, and at Rolling Hills, I saw things, I heard things, I felt things. I mean, I had literally, there was tapping going on in one of the rooms, and I walked over to, and I was standing outside of the room, and then I said, "Oh, I'm like, I'm hearing that. Are you hearing that?" Yes, yes. We're all talking, and on my face, I could feel the breath. I mean,
Oh, wow.
and it was a laugh. It was a goofy laugh. It was like,
Oh, no. Uh-uh.
and I got chills thinking about it. Like that was insane. It was almost like it was playing. It was playing. Like, oh, they thought it was funny that we were. Oh, do you hear that?
Mhm.
Also there, I heard. Now, no children were there, but
Right.
on my recorder, I got children singing "London Bridge is Falling Down."
Oh, wow.
Um, Also, there's one hallway, and I forget what it was called, but there's a hallway, and at the end of the hallway was two like hospital doors with like windows,
Right, right.
the two windows, and you go through it, and back way back when it was a tuberculosis uh, wing, or if you
Right.
will. They're investigating, and I look down the hallway, and I see on the other side of the door, I see like shadow underneath the door, like almost like, if somebody were to walk by, you'd see like the feet. And in the window, I saw what looked like the silhouette of like a person, like a head. So right away, I do a count of all the people I'm with. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, we're all here. I was like, did anybody see anybody go down there? No. So I just automatically run down there. I'm scared at this point because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to encounter when I get there.
Right.
Because this is like on this was like up on the second floor.
Mhm.
So I go there and I stood outside the double doors and I'm just waiting to see if I hear anything. I didn't hear anything. So I just busted in there, like, boom. And I was like, who's there? And I look, and you can see it both ends, and it's windows all around because then they would
Right.
have to have the windows open up, there
Uh-huh.
was nobody there. But I know what I saw.
Right, right, right.
I saw something that looked like a person walk. So, Rolling Hills probably is another one that in one single night I had so much happen. And
Mhm.
normally you don't have that much happen in one night.
Right, right. Wow. That had to have been
So,
exhausting.
oh my gosh. But then again, and then I have to say Gettysburg. I mean, I've had so many because I go so much. I've had
Right.
so many experiences in Gettysburg and at different hotels and inns. And I mean, that would be a 3-hour show in itself. Like I mean,
Oh, oh
Gettysburg
yeah.
is
Oh yeah.
amazing.
Now, have you been to some of the, I'm sure you probably have, but have you been to some of the museums in Gettysburg?
Some of the museums, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, you've investigated in Gettysburg, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So have you investigated the museum?
We so museum, like what do you so some of the inns have museums, if you will. So
Hmm.
like the Tilly Pierce Inn or the uh Tilly Pierce Inn, it's a bed and breakfast, but it also has um like downstairs they have like this setup where they um, have some of the artifacts that they found. Tilly Pierce wrote a book, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Farnsworth Inn, I've investigated. Um, I actually, I took a picture of, I was taking scenery pictures, and in one of my photos, there was a Confederate soldier that popped up on the railroad track, on the railroad
Oh,
cut.
wow.
So I sent the photo in to a couple of people that live in Gettysburg, because I did not want to put it out there unless I had some sort of professional, I guess,
Opinion.
yeah, other opinions. So I
Hmm.
sent it to, at the time, there was this museum called the International Museum of Spirit Investigation.
Okay.
And then also Mark Nesbitt's store is called Ghosts of Gettysburg.
Okay.
Sent to both. And it took a while, I guess, because they both had to research. They had to go back out there. They had to take pictures. They had to do this. The museum said they had to, develop it on, and then they couldn't explain it. They said,
Okay.
we think you caught an apparition. Mark Nesbitt said the same, that he
Hmm.
believes that I had caught an apparition. So actually, the photos hanging up in Mark, he hung it up in his store. So my photograph is hanging up in Mark Nesbitt's Ghosts of Gettysburg. He has a wall of ghost photos that have been captured along the years,
Oh,
and
wow.
mine finally got up there.
It's the wall of fame for ghosts.
Oh yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, are you getting paid?" I said, "That's the award. That's the money right there.
Right
That the
there.
fact that my picture's hanging on that wall
Right,
is
right,
enough for me."
right, right. That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of my things on my bucket list is to go down there. And um, the one thing that I've noticed, being a medium myself, I have a tendency to, when I go to certain places that have had a lot of traffic of death or suffering or something like that, usually I could kind of level it out a little bit sometimes, but I'm afraid that if I go to Gettysburg, it's just going to be a, a pretty intense place. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, I mean, of all the, you know, the death alone, and it's just the suffering, what really gets me is some of the houses that were used as makeshift hospitals.
And there's a lot.
And there's a lot. And that, back then, somebody was down or they had a troop down or whatever, and they just bust in and take over your house, and that was the makeshift hospital.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know that. Younger people probably don't know that history is, today.
Right.
You know, I think some of our history is getting erased,
Yes.
and I don't like that. I hate that. I think people need to know, what happened and how this happened and how that happened, and
Right.
forget all the political.
And I use, and it's interesting you bring that up, because I use the example of, because when they started to tear down monuments and statues and stuff like this of General Lee and this and
Right.
that, because of the Confederacy, which you know I hear the argument. However, I always say, I use this. I say, I went to the 9/11 memorial, the museum, the 9/11 memorial. And we all remember how devastating that was to us as a country,
Right.
and how, I cried. I didn't know anybody that perished in 9/11, but that was almost like it took a piece of us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Most definitely.
So I'm walking through, and it takes about 3 hours to get through, and it's an amazing memorial museum. It's amazing. They have a fire truck in there and everything. They have so much stuff, right? And as I'm walking around the corner, the first thing they have is they're actually playing the phone calls and stuff like that of the people that were calling their loved ones, whether they were in the planes or they were in the buildings. And and you almost start to get mad all over again. When you watch those shows and stuff now, you're like, oh, it just makes you so angry, and then you go around the corner, and here's this one little area set up where it shows all the pictures of the hijackers. It has their laptop, their shoes, their badges, their pictures. They have like all this stuff. And I was so angry. I said, how dare they put them in here? They don't deserve to be
remembered, period.
They don't deserve it. However, if you take them out of it, 100 years from now, people are going to be walking through here thinking, what happened?
Right.
Who did this? Why did they do it? What, when you take a piece of the history out of it, then the rest, it doesn't make sense, and you can never learn from it.
Right. That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. And with them, even like them being what's left over of them in that sense, their effects in there makes sense.
Right.
It would still make me upset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I get it. Somebody had that mentality to think that. You know what I mean? To say, hey, we need to do this. And probably somebody said, hey, you are nuts. Why would we do that? You know what I mean? So.
It is. It's like I said, when I saw it, I was like, I cannot believe that they have their faces here.
Right.
Like there's, and all their things, like how, like, I don't want to see that. Like, and it's pisses me off, and
right.
I could very well petition and protest and say, take it down. It's not right. But then again, you're removing a piece of the story.
Right.
You're taking it away.
Right.
And as much as I hate it, you can't remove that part of it.
You understand that fact of it,
Right.
And
right.
the same with Gettysburg in that sense. You can't remove the things that had happened there. You can try to erase as much as you want, but there's always going to be some type of piece of evidence or something there that's going to link it. And I truly believe that. They, as sad as it is, politics sucks.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So, surrounding myself with paranormal people and, trying to talk about things that I'm passionate about, I had to get rid of a lot of people on my Facebook because I couldn't do the whole two-sided argument anymore. It was just getting I was like, I'm done. I don't want to see it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to do anything. Right. I want to fill my Facebook page that I'm on looking at almost every day with something that I'm passionate about. You know what I mean? Right. So, but yeah, it's sad, that the world is the way it is right now. It's upside down. And I think that, we as Americans and, we're always trying to find the answers on things. And just so happens to be that I'd like to find the answers on the paranormal side, and and I think there's so much more truth that we haven't even uncovered yet,
Right.
and I don't believe anybody has it all figured out, you know,
No. And I
and
don't think
anybody claiming to say they have it all figured out, then yeah, I got a few questions for you. Yeah,
right.
so
Absolutely. It's and it's sad because you do have people in this field that take advantage of certain things,
yeah,
and certain people, and
right.
um, you know, and it's unfortunately it's hard to, trust
Hmm.
some things or
Yeah,
some.
yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah, and it's just taking things, excuse me, taking things at face value for what they are, and being, non-judgmental, and and just trying to be. I always tell people, if you're unsure about your life, just be the most genuine person you can possibly be.
Yeah,
Just be genuine. Be who you are, not what you think you are or what you want to be in that sense. You know what I mean?
oh yeah,
It's just be your true, genuine self,
yeah,
and you'll go a lot further
absolutely,
instead of being somebody else,
yeah.
or something else in that
But
sense.
yeah, but bringing up, there is a story that even the guys that were fighting, in 1863 in Gettysburg, there's a story from that comes from Little Round Top that they actually saw an apparition.
Oh, I believe it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. They described what he looked like would be George Washington, but I don't know. It never has been said that that's who it was, but the
Right, right.
description that the men gave
Hmm.
kind of sounds like it resembled George Washington. But they said this guy just rolled up on a white horse. He had the white curled hair, and this and that, and then
Right, right.
told them that they're at the best position, and they freaked out. They didn't know what was going on. They asked who the heck the guy was that came up, and nobody else knew what they were talking about. So there was a couple of them that saw this, what they thought was a ghost.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few stories about, out there about like the George Washington, and even some of the other prominent, Thomas Jefferson, Lincoln, the old story of Lincoln in the White House,
Yeah.
knocking on, I love that story. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
yeah.
have a book. Yeah, I have a book. It says it's like Ghosts of the White House, which,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's very interesting.
I think I learned that, my first book I read, was in fourth grade, and it was called Ghost by Daniel Cohen.
I
And it,
remember Daniel Cohen.
that was my very first paranormal book, ghost story I ever read. I read it from cover to cover, and I was in third grade, and I thought it was the best book ever. And I still remember some of the stories in there. And
Wait, did he do anything else? Why? Like, I remember.
I don't know why I remember that from when I was, what, 8. His name just I must have read it a dozen times.
Yeah, I
You
used
know.
to. Mine were the scary stories to tell in the dark,
Yep. Yep.
um, which I just watched the movie, and it was it was a good movie. However, they tried to make it like all the stories inside the book kind of mesh together, which
Right.
I wish they would have just did how the Twilight Zone did. Remember, the Twilight Zone would be,
Yep.
you know, every it's separate stories. It's one big
Right.
movie, but it's a separate story in each.
Right.
I wish they would have just did that
Or
because I
Creep
think
Show.
yes,
That movie scared the crap out of me. I hated that. That and the first scary paranormal type movie I saw was, Poltergeist.
so that's the scare. Yeah.
That was the very first one, and I had nightmares after that. I mean, oh yeah,
Yeah. That's probably why I don't like clowns today. That was the clown thing bothered me.
yeah, yeah, and oh yeah, that was. Well, and plus the fact that I don't know if you've ever read the story about they actually used human remains in the pool scene.
No.
You got to look it up. I'm not lying.
Wow.
The production company could not afford to make as many like plastic or prosthetic whatever
The
skeletons
skeletons and
because it
stuff like
was
that?
so expensive. And so somebody else said, hey, these people could use the money. They'll sell their family's corpse, and you can. And so what they did was they went to, I think it was in India, and they shipped a bunch of corpses, and all
Wow.
the the skeletons that were in there were actually people.
Wow.
Yeah. As crazy as that sounds. Now I had to research that, and I researched it at several different places, and they all came out the same. And even one of the actresses did not realize it until after.
I mean,
And
I'll be
she
honest with you.
freezed.
If that was me, I probably wouldn't want to know until after because I probably wouldn't get in that
No,
muddy ass
no.
pool.
Right. I mean, yeah, because the fact that it was,
Right.
human DNA in there and all that, and oh
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I would have been like, "What? No, you get in there."
yeah, yeah, that was
I'm not getting in there.
so you'll have to look up the poltergeist real skeletons theory, and you'll look it up online, and you'll find it probably immediately.
Well, even that is even there's like conspiracies around that whole movie. I mean, like with
Yep.
all the deaths and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
the older teenage daughter committed suicide. The youngest one died of a rare blood disease.
Didn't one didn't one of them the boyfriend killed her?
Maybe that was the one that committed suicide. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But I thought somebody had committed suicide on the set, or not on the set, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
There was like a lot of
so
stuff.
if you put two and two together, you have a bunch of real people corpses, and if they have anything attached to them, if they if they're hey, what are they doing to my corpse? Wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
Yeah, there's spiritual connection there somewhere.
Uh-huh.
You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
mean, I would imagine even still just like doing movies like that, you
Oh,
know.
there's been several movies that have creepy things that happened, and um, even on some like the Nightmare on Elm Street ones, there's been crazy things that have happened on the set with Wes Craven and this and that. Even at one point, he said he's like, I have no idea what it is,
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's some creepy stuff everywhere.
Um the scariest movie for me was The Entity. I don't know if you ever saw that, but
No, I did not.
I to this day, I know it was a 70s movie and some of the older movies, we watch now because we have all the CGIs and all the
Right, right.
effects and everything. But that was based on a true story. The poor woman, you know, and there's everybody's going to, there's always somebody to argue something. But I mean, she was, basically had an incubus that was just
Mm-hmm.
ruthless and wouldn't stop. And, she would move from house to house and it followed. And then I think she actually wound up passing away a couple years ago, but she was living in Texas
Uh-huh.
and the attacks had become less and less.
Right,
But they still were happening. She couldn't get away from it. And
right.
the movie, I mean, being a woman and watching that,
Oh
like,
yeah, no, thank you.
uh, you know, I can't even watch it with the lights off. Like it scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Jaws, yes. Brian says the scariest for me was Jaws. No, that is scary. That's why I don't
Yeah,
go to.
I haven't watched that all the way through. I never watched that all the way through. I have like a fear of sharks,
You have a fear
and
of sharks,
yes, I hate sharks. I do not like
really?
sharks. Oh yeah, I have a fear of them. My daughter, when she was in the Atlantic, and she was on a boat on a warship in the middle, she had to. It was so hot one summer that they had swam in the ocean. They had snipers on the top part of some of the masts to spot for sharks because they could only swim in a certain area. I was like, and she doesn't like sharks either, but she's like, but you had to get cool, and I was dying. And I'm like, nope,
Nope,
no thanks, nope, no thanks. So
I wouldn't either.
I I would say, yeah, Jaws is no, no thanks. So,
Yeah, I haven't been on a cruise, but the thought of like being in the water, because the ocean is very intimidating. Just
hmm
as this the our universe, like I mean, it's just so massive. I mean, it takes 9 months to get to the nearest planet. 9 months. I mean, you think about that, it's just so intimidating. But
hmm
I don't like being anywhere where I can't see land.
right, right.
If I'm in the middle of the ocean, I mean, it just is like, you know, and I definitely can't watch those movies where they go up in space and they're like floating around out there. I'm like, no, and they're looking down and they see Earth. Like literally,
That'd be cool. I
my
think that'd
butt
be cool.
clenches. My butt clenches, and I'm like,
No, I think
no,
no, I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be
no,
fun.
I can't.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I would be so afraid. Like,
yeah.
no way. Oh
No,
God,
and
no.
heights don't scare me, but yeah, it's just that would be pretty cool. Water, I can agree, but you know what? Every dream that I've ever had in water, I can breathe underwater.
Me too. But you know what though? But I am not breathing at first, and I think
Yeah. Oh yeah,
then
yeah,
I
yeah,
start
yeah.
to breathe.
Yep, yep. And
You
then all
know.
of a sudden you breathe. It's like, oh, okay, this is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
I think my elements. People have certain elements that are attached to them. I think some people have all of them, and I do believe I have all of them because
Mm-hmm.
I like earth. I like fire. I like sitting in front of a fire. I like the warmth. I like the water. I energize. I get charged from Lake Geneva when I sit there and meditate sometimes in the summertime, and I can just feel that. And I had another medium tell me too that yeah, your water is what you get some of your energy from, and
Mm-hmm.
so I can just feel that. You know what I mean? So, and I love trees. I'm a tree hugger. I love trees.
Me too. I hate when people, and that was what I was telling
When
you.
people tear trees down, I just want
Oh.
to go over there and I just want to tear them down.
Mm-hmm.
I just like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's just like, how much more congested can you be? I mean,
Right.
just, I
Right.
mean, relax.
Right.
Where's the greenery? I mean,
Yeah.
it's so sad,
That's why I like Colorado, like the Rocky Mountains. I'm a big fan of that. I feel really connected when I'm in the mountains.
Mhm.
I took my wife there at one time, and she'd never really been to the Rocky Mountains. She says, "Well, I've been to the Smoky Mountains." I'm like, "Oh no, 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 no. That's not the same." Once she got to like Yellowstone and all that, she fell in love. She wants to build a house there, and I'm like, "You hate winter." I'm like, "You realize that there'd be more snow there than here, And so,
Mhm.
but yeah, so yeah,
Well,
seeing
Colorado also has a Stanley Hotel, which that's on
I've
my bucket list.
been there twice. I've been there
Really?
twice. Yes,
Is
I've been
how
there twice.
is it gorgeous?
It's
It
gorgeous. It is,
looks beautiful.
and it is haunted. The first time I was there, I wasn't. It was years ago, and I wasn't really into my gifts or anything, but I knew I was sensitive enough to sense things, and I didn't kind of guard myself, whatever. And I was kind of weak even getting out of the car, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of really, a lot of energy. I get into one room, and down I went. I mean, I lost like I couldn't. I don't know what it was, but there was just some type of energy. The next room I went to, I started taking pictures, and I had a tall guy standing behind me in the mirror. And I didn't. Well, I had to wait to get him developed. I didn't realize at the time, but yeah, that I had a whole bunch of pictures from that place. I love that place. I've been there twice. Uh, yeah, it's just the view is unbelievable. I really wanted to stay there on my 50th birthday, but because of COVID, kind of messed that up. But
Yeah.
but
Brian asked if any of us have been to the Grand Canyon. Yes, I have been.
I have not. My wife and my mother-in-law have, but I have not.
I was there for a day. Was not enough. Was not enough time.
Right.
I stepped up, and the first look I got of the Grand Canyon, it took my breath away. It was so I don't even know the words. I mean,
Moving,
it
moving.
was so immense. It was
Right.
so pictures give it no justice
Oh
whatsoever.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And you know what? I mean, like throughout there, there's like Indian burials, there's these cemeteries, there's huts, there's so much to explore, and
hmm
and it's huge. You have like the west side, north side, southeast, which I didn't even know. and it's just like I want to go there for like a week and just be able to just explore everything and and hike and explore and oh, I mean, and the animals, like, I mean, we saw huge animals, little, I mean, it was amazing. The Grand Canyon is amazing.
Have you ever been to Tombstone?
I have not. That's another
That's
bucket list.
one on my list. I really want to go there. I mean,
Absolutely.
I have an affinity for Old West, and I don't know what it is, but I have a dream to do a documentary, a paranormal documentary on Old West ghost towns, and that would be awesome.
Yeah. No, Tombstone would be awesome for sure. That's one of my things, so, unfortunately I'm, I've always been, like I said, I've done a lot of investigations, but it's been mostly here, on the East Coast, where it's,
Well, it's costly to travel like that.
Yeah.
I would love to do nothing more than to take my show on the road and go do my podcast in haunted locations. I mean, that's another dream I have, but that takes money, and I'm not independently wealthy.
Right. Right. I know.
So,
I mean, that would be great. I mean, that's like something, that I would love to be able to do.
can you imagine doing your hosting of your show in a haunted location with another person from another haunted location?
I know.
I mean, that would just be like perfect.
Yeah. It would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I go to places, a lot of times when I do the investigations, I do go live on Facebook, but to be able to do that all the time, unfortunately, I have bills to pay, and you have to work, and then it's like, you got to try to take time off of work. But I mean, I would absolutely love to just travel and
investigate and research, and
even, I mean, like, even if you're not investigating, I mean, just to share that with, like, I love, like, when I go to Gettysburg, and I'm there by myself, because I will go by myself. I've been there for a couple of summers. I went for a week by myself.
Oh, wow.
I'm totally fine there by myself. Like, I go off and I do my live videos, and people are joining in, and I just walk through the woods. I walk everywhere. I've stumbled across, an old foundation and a well that I didn't know was there. All kinds of stuff. But, I have people on there and, talking and stuff, and they love it. They're, sometimes it's people that probably will never get to Gettysburg because they live so far away, and they love it. They're like, I love that you do this. And to be able to share that with people,
right. I mean, even the locations, share the locations, or share some history, or share, you know what I mean? And people were like, oh, we didn't know that, so I think there's a market for it. I'm going to push it.
Hey, look, if I could get paid for it, I mean, I would do it.
If I could get paid for doing what I love, I said that to somebody at my job the other day. I said, if I get paid doing what I love, man, I'd be a rich man.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be like, sky's the limit.
Right.
It's just, there's so many places. I mean, I lived in Ohio for 3 years at one point, and this was before I got into the paranormal field, and not being in Ohio now. And I have a lot of friends and investigators and teams that I know, and they you have like the Ohio Reformatory. There's like so many places in Ohio now that, well, not now, they've always been there, but that I wish I could just go back in time and be in Ohio again and be able to go investigate these places now, because I was like, I used to live there. How did I miss it? Like, what, like, it sucks,
That's what Brian said. A show in a haunted location. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
As soon as you can come down here from Canada.
Yeah, right?
As long as you can get through the checkpoints. Yeah.
He could just come, tell him that he could go, like, fly to Mexico, and then he'll come in that way. That's the easiest way.
Yeah, right.
To the United
States. He said definitely. He probably would.
You just fly to Mexico and just come walk through the border.
You
and
can
you're
just,
in.
or he can just, try to fly, over somehow in the plane and parachute in. You know,
Yeah.
it'll give you some coordinates. He
That
can
would
be,
be
it'd
so
be like DB Cooper.
right.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah. So, if the opportunity, the time, and it presents, like I'll drive wherever. I mean, Rolling Hills is 7 hours from me, and it was like the longest drive ever, it felt like. But it was such an amazing experience,
Right.
that I
Hmm.
would love to go back there again. Selma Mansion. I mean, the last time I was at Selma Mansion, I was live and caught, a whistle
Hmm.
behind me, and it was behind me. Everybody we were with was in the room. Only
Hmm.
one other person heard it. There was 10 of us there,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and you can hear it on the live video, and people that were watching were like, I heard it. I heard it. And so things like that, to me, even if I got nothing else the entire night, that
Right. That's
that to
yeah,
me, I would
right,
get real
right,
happy.
right. You'd be happy. You're right, and I'm the same way. As long as I would, get something. Then there's times that I don't get anything. Um, but yeah, just even that one small piece of evidence, or something that that acknowledgement. You know what I mean? It means a lot. To people like us that are in this type of field that want to experience that. But I actually had a thing where I had a guest and I had some things happen, and I got my little toy ball there that goes off vibration or whatever. I had quite a bit of activity, here even, and that's all it takes, a little bit. And I'm appreciative. I always say
Hmm.
thank you, I mean, so, but yeah, to be able to take this, to go on the road to investigate into, I just, I'm more of like, I just want to know the history. I'd love to hear about the history and research that, and even having somebody tell me the history is fine. You know what I mean? Just getting that. I mean, it's like sitting down to a good meal, and
Hmm.
you get to eat all the best food.
Right.
That's my opinion. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I look at it. I try to use a lot of things in analogies.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, when I investigate too, and I mean, I'm sure skeptics and paranormal investigators both will cringe when I say this, but I'm not a big equipment person. For me, I feel like I've had plenty of personal experiences, plenty of, you know, EVPs and all kinds of stuff happen to me. I'm not really trying to prove it,
Mhm.
to anybody, because the people that don't believe are just not going to believe. So
Right,
you
right,
could catch the best evidence in the world and they're still not going to believe it,
right, right.
and then you have your healthy skeptics, and you have, which I think I am. I mean, I like I said, I don't go into a place, you know, looking for, well, I do. I mean, I do look for the activity, but I'm not. That's not all of it. It's,
Hmm. Hmm.
what could be making this occur, or
Right,
trying to
right,
find like a reason for it, as
right,
well.
right, right.
Um, and then when you do your investigations, you always have to be careful who you're investigating with. You have to trust the people that you're with.
That's the biggest thing too, is trusting who you're with, and knowing who you're with, and I mean, yeah, I've experienced some of that in the past too, but you just gotta go with your gut instincts and your intuition and
Yeah. And I'm not afraid to tell somebody either. I mean, I was helping Penhurst out, and one of the people that worked for Penhurst was exaggerating a situation and saying that he was being hit and punched and this and that. And there was people there that paid to be there, that were enthusiasts, and I could tell one of the girls was getting scared. And I said, listen, I'm like, you need to sit down. I was like, nobody's punching you. Nobody's doing anything. I was like, you need
right,
to relax.
right, right,
I'm like, you don't have to make this huge, big scene for people to have a good time when they're investigating. Like, you can make it an experience for people without having to lie or,
Right.
exaggerate. Let
Yeah.
let the people run the investigation. You're just there to help them. You don't
Right.
investigate. That's not what you're there. You let them
Right.
investigate.
Right. This is an acting school.
Yeah.
Because there's people out there that are like that. What can drum up more business, and that's just.
But again, it's what they see. They see, and I'm sorry. I know there's people out there that probably love Ghost Adventures, but they see Zach Baggins, how he's like so, oh my God. And even Destination Fear, the same thing. I mean, they're very reactionary when it comes to if they hear something,
Right. Right.
and I mean, people tend to think that that's like, what you're supposed to do. I mean, or that's how you react. Now, granted, I'm in a place and I hear something, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to jump up and down and scream and hoot and holler, but I'm going to cautiously go towards whatever it is that I'm hearing.
Right. I've told that to people before. I go in if there's an investigation or if there's activity. I'm the first one to go in. A coworker of mine said, "You're nuts. You're like running." People run away from a fire, not into it.
Right.
But that's just the way I think. But
right.
So yeah, so I think we're about out of time. But I want to thank everyone, and I want to thank my guest here, and she's been fantastic. And thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thanks for asking me. I'm happy you asked me to come on. I'm happy.
Yeah, yes, this has been fantastic. I could probably do this for another couple hours, but
Yes.
yeah. But so you could probably everybody check me out on Twitter. Check me out, Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And did you want to plug anything? Do you have your show?
Yeah, Paranormal Brew is my show. It's every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and I am booked with guests until May 1st. So check me out. It's on YouTube. It's on Parapost Network. It is on Paranormal Radio King Network. And Unrestricted Paranormal and YouTube. I don't know if I said YouTube, but Paranormal is on YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just found out prior to coming on here, I didn't even know this, but I guess there's a Paranormal Awards, and Paranormal Brew's been nominated for the podcast part of it, and I did not even know that. So
sweet, congrats! Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so they're me. I'm nominated. And so if you guys can go on there and just well, first check my show out if you haven't seen it.
Right.
And if you like it, then but yeah, this week coming up, I have, like I said, I'm booked until May 1st, so there's always something fun going on.
Yeah, and I gotta be on your show soon.
Yes, we'll set that up. I definitely would have you on for sure.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Tom. I appreciate it, Karen, very much. And
thank you, Jay.
Everybody's been great. Thanks for all the comments, and I will see you Sunday at 6 p.m. Central.